Let's talk about Chinese venture capital, because there was something very interesting that you and I both saw, which is that the exit market, which is frozen here in the US, not nearly enough IPOs, though we will cover the Webtoon debut either this week or next week. So that's coming up. We are seeing a dearth of IPOs also over in the Chinese market. And Nikkei Asia reports that during the first 6 months of the year, the total value of mainland China's IPOs fell 84% on the year to about $4.5 billion. Only 44 IPOs, down 75%. Holy crap. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, this is what happens when you kill the golden goose. If you look at Xi Jinping's process here, he was very open to people in the West investing in companies in China, whether it's Alibaba, TikTok, or a whole swath of education companies.
Absolutely.
Then you had the giant ant, Alibaba Financial, going out. You had Jack Ma give a modest criticism of the banking system, and then he disappeared. And then he was painting, and he was no longer working on his nonprofit and no longer in charge of Alibaba or their spin out IPO that was going to be like one of the biggest IPOs in history.
One of the biggest IPOs in history. Yeah.
And so this is what I always tell people, as messy as capitalism is, and we spent the first third of the show talking about the Trump interview and the potential Trump presidency 2.0 and, Biden and the debt and all this stuff, as messy as our process is. You don't have a God king like Xi Jinping for life who can just say, you know what? Education belongs to the people. You can't have an education startup. And he wiped out all those returns. Now, imagine if you took me as an investor and you said, Uber, Robinhood, your top 3 investments are gone. What happens to my DPI in a power law industry?
It goes.
Distribute it.
Yeah.
Boom. Done. He did that. He rug pulled the entire venture industry by taking away that IPO for Ant, by taking away all these education startups.
Yes.
And I said this on CNBC a decade ago. I said, I would never buy any Chinese companies on the stock market because who knows what they're doing with their accounting? It's a black box. It is completely opaque. If you're a momentum investor, you want to place crazy bets, do it. But it's like playing in a rigged casino. When I was in LA, I got invited to a lot of poker games that were occurring with a lot of craziness. And I didn't go to them because I was like, you know what? There's too much at stake here in a high stakes poker game for 2 or 3 of these people to not be cheating. And sure enough, there was a guy recently who got accused of a couple of $1 million in stealing because he was wearing contact lenses and a marked deck where the contact lenses told you what card. So you're basically playing face up versus your opponents. If you can cheat, as we've seen in crypto, as we see in poker, and as we now see, in a dictatorship like China, if you can cheat, you're going to cheat. That's it. It's just human nature. There's too much at stake. And then you add to it all these, regulations here in the US where, Sequoia and other places that were investing had to divest. And the government's like, yeah, we maybe don't want you investing in our rivals and building their economy. So, this is the decoupling. This is the great decoupling. That's why Xi Jinping came to San Francisco. Remember, he came to San Francisco and Gavin Newsom is like, yeah, we're going to clean this place up for 48 hours for the Chinese dictator. The citizens, whatever, you guys can pound salt. But when the dictator comes, we're going to clean it up real nice. That whole situation was him, Xi Jinping, coming back and saying, invest in our country.
Yeah.
That was him saying, give me a mulligan here. I made a mistake. Can you please come here? You have to be crazy if you're an LP to want to invest in China.
Well, I think that there's a difference between what he did, Xi Jinping, which was a publicity tour, and then the facts on the ground. And yes, so here's an article, if you're looking at the video of this, of Xi in San Francisco. A big deal geopolitically, didn't end up leading too much, but from the same Nikkei Asia article that we were talking about earlier, one VC said this is the hardest and worst time to raise funds in China. Last year, Chinese venture capitalists only raised $14 billion, down by 2/3, and there's another 30% decline this year. So it's not just that foreign investors are pulling back, it's also that domestic investors are as well. Now, there has been a turnabout here, Jason. The Chinese government has made a lot of noise about how it wants to change the way things work and provide some support for venture capital firms. And I went ahead and made a little bit of a list of things here. I think we have an image we can pull up. I did a summary of what the actual Chinese government said in their quote, several policy measures to promote high quality development of venture capital, which is a very Chinese Communist Party way of saying we're here to help. Now, what are they talking about? Promoting corporate venture capital, promoting hard tech, use of more state backing in venture funds, more private market backing of venture funds, favorable tax policy and tax and policy consultation with VCs, working out getting more foreign capital, and also why are there no exits? So some of that stuff, it works for everybody, but I just don't think that trying to be slightly more easy to talk to is going to do away with the concerns that you mentioned that make it an uncertain business climate, and therefore not one you can trust that money going in will be good and that you can get money back out.
It's a competition for capitalism globally. Jurisdiction matters. As we've seen here in a microcosm, Delaware now has a serious issue versus Texas, where people are incorporating in Texas and Nevada after what happened when a person with 9 shares could sue, to revoke Elon's pay package. And then the lawyers make a $5 billion commission on that. Like, this is crazy. So everybody's now saying, well, let's take a look at Texas. Let's take a look at Nevada as jurisdictions after 100 years of doing Delaware companies because it was predictable. Now that it's not predictable, people are moving to other jurisdictions. If you look globally, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor, are you going to put your firm and your money in Dubai and UAE, where it's predictable and where the government has shown over the last 20, 30 years, hey, you can do business here and we're not going to rug pull you. You come to UAE, Abu Dhabi especially, and Dubai as well, you're going to feel very safe in living there, investing there, incorporating there. They want it to be so stable that you don't think about, maybe I put this in Hong Kong. Oh, yeah, you put it in Hong Kong? What happened in Hong Kong? Oh, China took it over. The only way for China to stop all of this isolationism is for them to just come out and say, one China policy, Taiwan's part of China, and we don't need to invade it. We all know it's part of China, and we all keep this facade up that they're not going to invade it, which we did for 2 decades, where we would say, Taiwan is its own great, amazing culture and country, and we believe in one China. We literally talked out of both sides of our mouth. It was one 20, of the 30 years.
We're still doing it today.
Right. And okay, sometimes you kick the can down the road, like, let's not kick the hornet's nest here. And now I feel like if we're not going to invest in the country and they're going to invade Taiwan, like, maybe this relationship's broken forever.
I don't see a way for it to come back on its current trajectory, because if I was China, and to be clear, not, but if I was trying to gin up business for my export-driven economy, I would not be antagonizing all my local maritime neighbors by claiming that I own all of their ocean. Now, I like to call mainland China West Taiwan just to annoy people, but I will say that I think the West Taiwanese Sea should be shared by international norms and rules and not just taken over by one local power. But that is a way to do business. It is just not a way to do business that I think makes the most sense for an economy that right now could use a little help versus an extra weight or an anchor behind it. Because as we all know, the Chinese economy and its demographics are a little bit rough right now. And I want everyone to be rich. I want everyone to be free. And seeing China move both, on both areas, the wrong direction is disappointing for a number of reasons, but also think of the people this is going to immiserate, essentially. It's just a waste. It's unnecessary.
Everybody knows I spent a little bit of time in the Middle East. I've been to Doha twice. I've been to UAE 3 times, Riyadh twice, Bahrain. I haven't been to Oman or Kuwait yet, but I'm going to do that on my next trip. I've spent a lot of time there. And people are like, oh, so you don't care about human rights, or, oh my God, monarchies, whatever. And I'm like, let me explain something to you.
All right.
Capitalism is destiny. And there is a moment in time right now where that region wants to invest and be part of the West. They want to be part of this great capitalistic experience and machine. If we say, no, we don't want you to participate in this, then their other option is to participate with Pakistan, North Korea, Russia, and China. And as we've seen with Russia and the sanctions, who are they participating with? We just had Putin and Kim Jong-un like driving in some
worst car. Vacation ever. Like, where'd you go, honey? I didn't go to Mallorca. I didn't go to Iceland. I didn't go to the Tierra del Fuego. I went to Pyongyang. Like,
worst. Literally, that's where Putin's welcome. Like, literally Putin's destiny. This is why, like, being a dictator is dumb. Like, Putin can't go to France. He can't go to Paris. Paris is awesome. Can't go to Barcelona.
Can't go to Club 33.
Not welcome at Disneyland. Get 4 courses. No VIP for Putin and his kids.
No, and he killed his chef too. It's terrible.
I mean, come on. I mean, listen, enough with the plutonium. I think what you want to do is And this is one of the reasons I was spending time in the region. And I don't want to be full of myself.
No.
But you tell me what your thinking is, because I worked at Amnesty International. I used to be a hardliner about human rights. Either you hit the Declaration of Human Rights, as done by the UN and Eleanor Roosevelt, or you don't.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, are you trending towards that or not? That's the way I look at the world now. Are you trending in the right way?
Yes.
For human decency, freedom, autonomy, and sovereignty? Are you trending them? Now, we just talked about China, they're not. And then if you look at the MENA region, they all are, or almost all of them are trending in the right direction. And they're actually putting a lot of effort into that. And so
engagement essentially is the way to help lead them towards what we consider to be the better future. Okay. So
what do you think? Do you think I'm just a rabid capitalist, or do you think I have a good strategy?
Let me explain to you why I'm slightly skeptical before I cause any judgment, because I don't want to just jump here to the obvious kind of skeptical opinion. China, pre-opening up, no internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Things change. Deng Xiaoping opens the economy, lets some people get rich. Let's try many things. Doesn't care as long as it catches flies, whatever the analogy was, or rats. I forget the story there. The country opens up, liberalization, integration with the WTO, some liberalization, and then it reached a peak and then began to pull back. Now, you could say that is because its current leader has a very Marxist history and a particular view of the Soviet Union and its collapse, and is bringing that, as we've all read the speeches.
Yeah.
That's an example of a movement towards economic liberalization, not leading to political and civil rights liberalization.
Right.
So you've been to the Middle East. I had actually not. I don't think I've ever gotten to go. No, but I've been to China. I've been to Russia. But do you see that this path they're on has a long road ahead of it that is an ascent towards what I might consider to be key human rights points?
So if you just take the UAE as a microcosm,
sure,
you have economic freedom, you have personal freedoms, you don't have political freedoms. You can't run for office, right? It's a monarchy still. And you have to be respectful of the monarchy. You're not going to say derogatory things about the king or the royal family. And then you look at Saudi. They've actually had to catch up to UAE because now everybody puts their company in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. You get a golden visa and it's predictable. So MBS and his team are trying to make Riyadh and Saudi as predictable as UAE. Qatar and Doha were trying to do the same thing. But then the Iran-Hamas connection has set them back. So now you have this great rivalry occurring. And Oman has its own royal family and they want to participate in the West. So you have this, hey, where do you want to put your company? And now a person who's starting a new company, maybe they're from Singapore, maybe they're from Hong Kong, maybe they're from Europe. They're going to look and say, you know what? I got investors in Abu Dhabi. I got investors in Doha. I got investors in Dubai. I'm going to pick one of those places. If I go to China, I'm not going to get investors. It's not predictable. Yeah. The investors don't like it. And then you have to decide. And Xi Jinping made this decision. And he obviously made the wrong one and maybe overplayed his hand. I want to go with, I'm the God King. And what happens? He squeezes too tight and the galaxy slipped through his fingers, as Princess Leia eloquently put. And now nobody invests in their country. So
no,
it's almost like, do you want to be part of the new world or not? And so what I want to do in the Middle East, and I've been pretty upfront about this, is I'm considering, and it's just really a matter of my personal preference in terms of time, I want to do 20 episodes of This Week in Startups there. I want to do like a This Week in Startups MENA region, right? Have a local host. Maybe you and I do a couple of episodes. And I've been thinking about maybe Founder University or Accelerator doing it there one time a year, just to kind of build the bridge, right? And that connectivity. I wish that was occurring with China again. That would be better for the world. And so there's no easy solutions, but I think we're trending in the right direction.
You know what? I'll take the movement in the right direction. That's very encouraging to me as someone who has very strident views about gay rights and women's rights and so forth.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen when they have a Jack Ma. Because Jack Ma he would play guitar on stage at Alibaba events. He was literally a business rock star. He was one of the most visible names and faces. He was Steve Jobs, but more fun. I thought Jack Ma was always a real kick in the pants. I like the guy. One mild criticism, and he got 86th like yesterday's news. What happens in Saudi when someone makes lots of money who's not part of the royal family and says something mildly critical of MBS? We all recall the 2017 to 2019 Saudi Arabian purge. Yeah. So I guess here's the thing. I want to be optimistic here. But to me, I still see monarchy. And I just don't know how to thread that needle with capitalist thread.
Yeah. And so I think you got to go with the trend. I'm going with the trend line.
Yeah.
I think it's the best you can do, because the trend line's either going to come towards democracy and engagement, or it's going to go towards North Korea, Russia. I think we just got to get more countries going the right trend line. And
between that's the real politic choice. It's not do you engage or not. It's which way do you want to influence the situation? Because it's going to go one of the two ways. And that's why I think you get some flack, which is probably not entirely fair. But I can also see the other people's perspective of how dare you, what about Khashoggi, et cetera. So it's complicated. I think that's...
And interestingly, I met with one of Khashoggi's cousins when I was there, and I've told the story before. They basically look at the situation in that region, broadly speaking, as, hey, if you're not a strong leader there, you're not going to be the leader there. And so you have to understand the dynamics that their leaders are going through. It's not set in stone who's running each of these countries. There have been coups in many of these countries that people can get overturned. And so if you're not strong in these countries, you will get 86th yourself.
Oh, well, I have a solution to that. What they could do is they could, instead of trying to have a hereditary monarchy predicated on theocracy, they could have elections. And then they could let people vote. And then every, 4 years, you could have a new leader. And then you could have term limits, like maybe 2.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have that problem of
and then it would be messy like the West. And so
it's messy everywhere. But I'll just say,
and then we have the messy set of issues here. But I'm hoping it trends in the right direction. That's my goal as a human being on planet Earth, with whatever time I have left, is, gosh, I hope it trends in the right direction. And I have to say, when it comes to women's rights, it's been spectacular how much things have changed just in the past 3, 4, 5 years. Every meeting I go to in the Middle East, women in senior positions, leading discussions, leading meetings, leading initiatives, they're really leaning into that. And so to speak, and it's becoming like a big push for them. And in talking to men in private in those regions, they're really thrilled. They're like, this is great. My wife's out doing business and she's driving and she's got all this stuff. It's awesome. I don't have her at home feeling like she has no choices and our relationship is not as happy. So it's really interesting.